Welcome to the Domino Volt edition of Meet the Developers, and we're here on this Friday the 13th in 2020. So hopefully the demo gremlins won't have too much fun today, but we're optimistic. It's a good day. So my name is Maureen Leland, and with me is Rob Lintern and Christopher Dawes. We're all developers on the Domino Volt product. That's our daily work. And, it just seems since we're talking about Meet the Developers, it felt like this is our whole team, or most of our team, actually. There are a few people not here, but, if you're meeting the developers, it's not just the three of us, it's many of us. So we all want to welcome you and hope you're enjoying Domino Volt. And we are here to talk about that today. Now, through this week, there have been a number of Domino Volt sessions. So there was a tutorial on Wednesday morning. There was a roadmap yesterday. Rob Lintern and Marty did a show the code session where you got to see many of these, there's a good place for that, many of these features that are coming up in our 102 release next month, major usability improvements, corporate themes, contains and searching and sorting, the name picker, being able to email attachments, application history, mapping internet email to role notifications, improvements around service error handling and some error handling in general. And of course, with every release, a requisite amount of bug fixing. Rob got through a tremendous number of these features in 15 minutes yesterday. So given that context, we thought we would take some of this time and to show what we've been working on, what's in the lab waiting to come out after the December release. Not every feature fits in a 3-month time frame. Some of it takes a little more work. So during this time, we've actually made a start on some other features that we kind of want to give you a sneak peek at. And so we thought we'd take some time during this session to show you those features that are coming, and then turn to questions at the end and have hopefully a very lively discussion on how you're experiencing Domino Volt, what you would like to see, what you think is most important, and let's just go ahead. So what are we doing beyond 102? So right now, Domino Volt is a great forms tool. You can build lots of applications. You can collect data. It's really geared towards collecting data. Now, we have seen in a lot of the applications that you guys are building that you're taking forms and, you're standing on your head to hide the submit button because you really don't need it to collect data. You actually want a dashboard, or you want a welcome page, or you just want to show something. So we're adding a design element. There's my Domino designer speak, called app pages, that really are free form pages, and the pun there is intended. It's free of forms. It's not defining data as you go along. It doesn't have stages. It's just for rendering or display, whether it's just an image. There's my Martha over there. Or whether it's, data collection or whatever. So it's a general use display page, effectively. Now, we are very focused on security in this product, so we didn't forget about security for app pages. Every app page will honor the security that you give a role for that page, and I'll show you that. So at this point, go back. No peeking. I'm going to switch to a demo. So put this over here. So I have made my puppies app. If you've known me from Domino Designer, you know it's almost always a puppies app. I'm so happy that I actually have a product manager who likes dogs. So, I have not heard, since I came to HCL, I haven't heard, please don't do puppies. So I can, this is a standard Volt app. So I can add, Captain Humber Spaniel, and he's 7. So this is, this is collecting data as you might expect, all right? But what if I want a different experience? I could be adding things to that page to say, welcome, please add a puppy. Or after we ship this new feature, let me move this over here now. All right, here's the application. It looks pretty simple. Let me go here, outline. And now you can see there's a new feature called App Pages. This is not the final UI design. We're doing foundational work at this time, so this will be prettier when we actually show it and let you guys use it. So my new, let's see, edit this. My new app, actually, let's be simpler. My app page. So I made an app page. It looks a lot, I have a canvas I can design, have a pretty little icon there. Some of the pretty things are coming in. It has properties, all right? So I can say, well, I don't really want mobile width. I want desktop width. I can go to the palette, and this is a slightly different palette than you would see for a form. There's a shortened list, and we're still discussing what should actually be on the palette. So you guys are getting a really early look. So I can add this. This is a new 102 feature. You will see this. Basically the property panel over on the right. Welcome to puppies. Let's make it bold. Let's make it a pretty blue, and let's make it bigger. 20 should do it. And let me go here and let me put an image on it. And you can guess what it's going to be. It's going to be my little Martha the Mostest. There we go. And there she is. So, all right, I can render this page, but then how would I get from this page to the form? How do I get from the welcome page to anywhere else? Well, at the moment, at this point in time, I will do this in script. So when I click on the image, so it says app dot launch form F form 1. Since I didn't give it its own name, I can be pretty sure that's what the name is. Say OK. So that's all well and good. But what if I want when you're entering data, to be able to get back to the app page, to the welcome screen? So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to add a button. And the button, let's see, let's make this guy wider. Let's give it some text that says, back to welcome, go to events. So if you click that button, so these are just JavaScript events to allow you to navigate. App.show app page. App, that's going to change to AP probably this afternoon. My app page 1. Say OK. So now we have a way to get back and forth. So we have an app page. Before we leave design mode, I do want to show you a few things. So we have this new thing here for app settings. I promised you we were secure, and we are. So right now, this app page, everyone can see it. I haven't defined any roles in this app, but I could add roles and control it further. You'll also see that there are no stages for app pages because they aren't data going through a workflow. They are just display pages. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to deploy it. It shouldn't take too long. It does have to add a page. It's having a chat with the VM on my machine. All right, so now we can go here. Now we haven't put in anything on the launch page, on that main page to launch an app page yet. That is coming soon, or coming before we ship 103 or whatever. So right now I have to type the URL, but that's not forever. So if I do this, there is our welcome page. And, I might add, if you want to add a puppy, here you go. So here I can add Breezy. Or I could decide, oh, I really don't want to do that. I just want to go back to the welcome page. So anyway, it's a way of combining. I think you see the point at this point. It's a way of combining effectively. They can be dynamic, so I don't want to say static pages, but regular pages with your normal application. So let me just go back to slides for a minute and talk right here about navigation. Now you saw I had to write script, and we want, of course, to be a low-code product. So when you build something very often, which is what we're doing now, you start with the foundation. So, this is the foundation. We need that JavaScript API. We need that code that navigates between the pages. But once that's all in place, we really want to make it easier for users to get between app pages and forms, and actually between app pages in not necessarily this app, but another app, or even a URL, which got clipped off the image. So on buttons, images, links, rather than having to write script, we're expecting to be able, this is one of the features, and the UI designers are already coming up with very nice UI designs for navigation, which even if you're not using app pages, should be, a nice feature to have and added, just to be able to click a button and say, I want to go here, and we'll take you there. So app pages and navigation, those are some of the features that are at work in the lab. And we've got some more features at work, and for that, I'm going to hand you over to the very capable hands of Rob Linter. And I'm going to make Rob presenter. Okay, there we go. See, Rob, you're muted.
There we go. I couldn't unmute myself for a second there. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our dev session. I will share my screen here. I'm just going to go through one new feature very quickly. This new feature goes right along with what Maureen was showing with app pages. So you've got a page, you're going to build possibly a dashboard of some kind. And one of the biggest components that you may want to see on that page is a grid of data. And that's kind of an obvious statement, I think, but we're making progress towards having that actual component on the palette, a data grid widget that you can drag onto your form and then present data in a tabular format. I mean, this is kind of a bread and butter statement for anybody who uses Domino views, but we've lacked a general data grid widget in the product, so we are adding one now. There's going to be, we're going to try and satisfy a few use cases here with this grid. One is definitely going to be showing data from our own forms, from other Volt forms. That's an obvious thing that you might want to show. We've also got somewhere in the roadmap, we've got showing data from an arbitrary service call. And then also, if we hear enough from you guys, we'll also think about having a good way to surface Domino data from other Domino applications in this view, or grid, I should say. It's one of the big steps we've taken for this grid for this next release is it's actually a React component. For anybody who's looked under the covers a bit at how the product is actually built, the client side uses a lot of Dojo, but we're progressing into the space of using React, and hopefully that'll allow us to leverage other components and other open source libraries that are React based. This grid here is a material table grid, it's called. It's a React component that's available open source. Let's see, I'll show you quickly at runtime here. It does what you think it would do. You can sort by column, things normal grid-like functionality. At the moment, this is showing data from another form. If I look at our own Volt Zone view data page, here's all the data I've collected. This page here is actually echoing that same data, but in this new grid component. If I click on a row, it will launch a record, the record that it refers to. If I actually change data, just type in some garbage in this field and then update that data. We're going to work on kind of the round tripping between jumping to a form and back. Obviously, clicking on the tab over is not an ideal scenario, but what you can see here is that this grid figured out I should redraw myself because the data has changed. And also I got my list here. Yeah, just like any other widget in a Volt application, it's part of the ecosystem. You can manipulate it with, you can talk to it through a JavaScript API. We're going to try and have some techniques, some more no-code techniques as well for making sure the grid can filter based on some criteria. In this case, I've hooked up the grid to this single line entry, and I've got a JavaScript API function that when this value of this field changes, it filters the grid to that value. So it allows you to compose a page in the way that you like, that you're not necessarily tied to what's built into this grid component. You can combine different widgets together to create the kind of dashboard or experience you want. And that kind of triumvirate of app pages, the data grid, the built-in navigation, it gives you a lot of flexibility to construct more interesting applications that are not just form-centric applications. This component here also stops the kind of more interesting uses that people have been using our table widget for, which is as kind of a placeholder for data, which is not exactly what it's meant for all the time. So I think that's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I got to say about the grid. There's much more to come. We've got kind of pages of features and sub-features to do with this kind of component. As you can imagine, it gets complicated with filtering, sorting, possibly inline editing, all kinds of things like that. So that's it for me. We're hoping, I think, Chris, to open it up for general discussion. Let me just see here. Maureen, you wanted to chat through some of these slides? As David.
Yeah, I think we wanted to talk a little bit about Domino data as a service. I think Chris probably has some questions he wants to ask there. We thought this might kick off the discussion a little bit because this is one of the areas we'd really like some feedback because this service was introduced in 101. In 102, you'll be getting support for multi-valued fields. But then it's like, is rich text more important or is categorization more important? Is being able to, right now, it's a read-only service. Should we add the other parts of CRUD besides the R? So we'd really like to find out what's most important to you. Chris, I don't know if you were planning on showing anything. I can't remember. Yeah, didn't tell us. But it's, so this is one area we'd like some feedback on. We're open to feedback on anything. I guess we can open the floor. You can ask questions in the chat, and that way we'll have a record of them and we won't lose anything. Or Jan can also unmute people if you're more comfortable speaking rather than typing.
Okay. It looks like people are having trouble unmuting. Get Chris unmuted first of all here.
I couldn't say anything because I couldn't unmute myself. The only thing I could show the showing of multiple values. That's really I could show that if that was of interest, but I think most of all we want to hear from the folks on the call.
Yeah. Actually getting some feedback on the multi-values, that I would be interested in that if you want to show that. You should get to show something too.
Yeah, I can. I've got it up on my machine right now, so I can show that.
Do I have to pass this share on to?
Yeah.
Her?
Yes, highlight of Chris' name over his box there and put the three dots and make presenter. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, you should be good to go, Chris.
Yeah, just trying to share. Just wondering. It doesn't look like. Let's see here.
There we go. It started to work. Yay.
So what I've got here is a sample form that is talking to my state's Domino NSF, and I have pulled back some information. This is all just arbitrary information, but the first thing you can see here is that within my California state, I've got a field that accepts multiple values of names, and I've got one that has dates, and I've got one that's got times and numbers and date times. And so prior to Volt 102, whenever you tried to return a value from a Domino field that accepted multiple values, you would only get the first value. Now, if we take a look at the service, there's actually a neat feature that was added that I don't think we've even got on our list of features that you're getting, probably because it's exciting to me, but maybe not exciting to the rest of the world. We have this ability to categorize inputs and outputs of a service. So if I look at, I think it's this, no, that's not the right one, sorry. So what we've got now is, you may not have seen this toggle before, but now there's an advanced toggle. And what that means is any field, so the fields now, if you want to map to something that is a multi-value, you'll have to change to advanced and then select the all values option for that field. Now, as of right now, we don't know if a field has multiple values or not, so every field is duplicated here. Certainly an enhancement I'd like to try and work in is maybe specifying whether or not something is multi-value when you define the service. Like same thing as we define the data type, we might actually say that this is a multi-value. And then what that enables us to do is only create multi-value properties for ones that have actually been indicated as multi-value. So that's an enhancement I'd like to see us go after around this. But as it is right now, we don't clutter your view with all those values. You have to select advanced to actually grab them, and then from there you can return the multi-value. The original item will just return the first item in the multi-value as it did in Volt 101. So I think that's all I really wanted to point out there for the multi-value support. And I think now is a good time to go into, hey, if you guys have used Domino Data as a service, do you have anything that you noticed that you'd like to see improved, changed, or added? We'd love to hear that.
And anything else too. The phone lines are open.
Would you like me to unmute? Shall I unmute, live dangerously, unmute all lines? It was supposed to be people could unmute themselves, but I think some people are having difficulty doing that. Let's try it. Let's try it.
Well, good morning or good afternoon. Hi, Christopher.
Hey,
hi, Marie. We've talked. I'm back, you know. I love what I'm seeing. Just I see that you're going to integrate more and more into Domino, which is a fantastic thing. And there's a couple of points I'd like just to bullet point you. Okay. When I'm developing, and there's several of us developing, we got a couple of issues. I never know if somebody else is working in the database. Okay, so having some kind of log feature or some kind of message that says Mr. Smith is right now in edit mode in the database would be a big help. Okay.
And by database, you mean the Volt application?
The Volt application, excuse me. Yeah, I'm sorry. My notes background shows, I guess, visibly.
I do the same thing, I understand.
Then in the design elements, one thing that just is a real, how to say, pain in the bottom is we are unable to copy design elements. The only thing I can copy is the fields in one page. But not being able to say, oh, I got this section, I could use that in another page somehow, is just a very big waste of time. And when I go into services, sometimes I have services that would be just almost the same, and I have to rewire the whole thing. So that would be great to have some kind of way to copy design elements. Okay? I have my ideas about it, but I'm bullet pointing stuff. The other thing about the how do you say I lost my English, I'm sorry. And yeah, when you're talking about the option of writing stuff into the notes database, okay, so that would be make us able to update notes databases. I think you should talk to your Lotus Domino guys that they have the equivalent of the setting of the UNID on Notes, that it would be able to do the Vault UID when you create a Notes document in a Vault database. Because right now I have the fact that I need to, fill up the database, populate the database. And the only way I can do that if it's a Notes app is through an Excel import. Okay? But using Vault as a massive data creation tool is not the best way. I could do that from Notes much quicker. So being able to populate the Vault app and the records in the Vault app coming from Notes, it already works, except I don't get that UID variable set, which means my document doesn't show up in my Vault app.
Okay. And you truly want to import rather than just be able to render the data there.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to populate the database. I have a couple of business cases we can discuss. It's just frustrating at that point. And the last thing that I find a bummer is I create a service, I choose a Note view, I make my wiring, then for some reason in Notes I need to do another view for that service because there's some changes or stuff like that. I can't change the view. I have to recreate the whole service. Okay, I'm fully aware that it may end up, it could create problems in the wiring, but I mean, that's the developer's issue. I would like to be able to change the view if and when that happens, like if I'm in multilingual mode or stuff like that, I have to change the language of the application, and I have a French view and a German view. I need to recreate a service, whereas I could just change the name of the view.
Yeah.
Those.
Those are good. Those are all good suggestions. Definitely, we've been looking at ways to help with multiple authors on the same application. Our first step there would be just to perhaps lock or just give a notification. Hey, so and so is editing this
that would be great
right now. Yeah.
That would be great, because if he's online, he's connected, we can talk at the same time or whatever. At least we have the information.
Yeah. Yeah, and the copy and paste, that's a big one. It's something that you just kind of expect should be there, right? You can copy and then paste on some other page. There is a feature that's a little bit hidden that gets you partway there, and maybe you know it, maybe you don't, but you can duplicate a section, and then you can drag that section over the outline and move it to a different page within the same application. It only helps when you're trying to copy and paste in the same application. But definitely we want to look into a true copy and paste functionality. As you can guess, it gets quite complicated when you've got rules, rules, services, all JavaScript, everything that may relate to the widgets you're actually copying. But I think we can find the sweet spot there.
So we can talk. I have some suggestions there. But the one thing that kind of surprised me, but I guess that comes from the way Vault is built, is why would a service not be usable in different forms or pages? That was something, and just, again, it's my Notes background, and that's the way that.
Yeah. The way services work now is the inputs and the outputs are mapped to items in the form. So that's why the service is scoped to the form. When it comes now to adding a new construct, which is just a generalized page, app pages that Maureen talked about, I guess we're going to have to revisit that. Like, okay, if we're calling a service in this scenario, it's not linked to any particular form.
Maybe you should have an interface to a service, like a service being, if I'm using that image being like a subroutine, and you just configure which variables are the input of the service, and just call the service with that information. So just an idea. But maybe we shouldn't be talking about stuff like that when everybody's listening, and maybe they have some other,
Well, we're here for general free form discussion. So,
but I think that at least to me, with all the fun I'm having doing Volt stuff, the scaling up of the design and then scaling up of installing multiple versions of the same application, multiple servers with the same types of Domino applications with different file names, etc., is the one issue that's going to be a real, showstopper if we can't find solutions. I understand that the citizen developer doing that in his company is going to have one application, but the software editing company like mine will want to develop once and sell 100 times or 1,000 times. So my questions are always going to be in this direction. Just wanted to point that out. I don't know how about my other colleagues and what they're going to be saying. But I guess, again, I'm from the Domino world, so Maureen knows what that means.
So you feel like you're going to be building applications for other people?
Oh, yes.
You want to be able to have reusable components, right, that you can just slot into the page. That's another thing on the roadmap, or it's always been on the roadmap, is, okay, you've built a nice address block. Now you want to reuse that on any form you create.
For example.
Yeah, that's an example.
Christopher was talking of widgets. So maybe that's one way to go, and I'm happy if I have a solution. He was talking about widgets. Maybe we should be able to know both widgets. Maybe that's an idea.
The Domino girl here thinks subforms.
Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That and templates for the whole application.
Yeah, templates and configuration made easy. Like, how could we have a profile document or something like that, so that I can set application-specific information, which right now is not, let's say, easily possible.
Per user or
per application.
Yeah.
What's the use case there? What would it be used for?
I lost it. I had it last week. I needed that, and I didn't. And I'm sorry. I'll come back to you about it, but I had it.
Yeah. Okay.
For example, you want just to see this thing. How could I configure the fact that if I generate a document, there is my company name on the document, and this not being code?
You're going to have to see an example of what you mean by that.
I mean, you can generate PDF documents. So imagine you print an order form and you want the company address on the order form, and I don't want to code that. So where do I get that information from?
Oh, I see. So generally, like reusable blocks of data that exist outside your application. I see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and that's true for things like lists, right? Like I have a list of countries. I want that defined in a global location that I can use in any one of my drop downs in any of my applications. So
yeah, I got that. And just this is a subject I had with Christopher Daves. When you're entering addresses anywhere on the web, you start with the first letters of the city, and you have a list of cities.
Yeah.
Just for your information, the list of cities of the country France is, I think, more than 43,000 long.
Yeah.
Great. So that requires a whole set of stuff. But I saw in the demonstration yesterday that you solved the type ahead with the Domino directory.
Yeah.
And I guess there are directories with tens of thousands of names. So could you please put that in the pull down field?
Yes, that's always been one too floating around is, okay, a type ahead field that's linked to some data source. The tricky part is making sure that it hooks to a data source that, well, you just have to do a bit of mapping to know how that data source wants the information passed to it. I like, what's the filter string or query string that it wants. So it's possibly, there's two parts there. Maybe is building in a service that does that lookup. The other is the widget that actually does the type ahead.
We've got a type ahead working, but it stops at, 1,000 records or something like that because it can't load more. So
right.
We end up in unusability territory because, Switzerland has 3,000 cities are in stock.
Right. Yes.
So it should start at the third click, so it gets complicated. But anyway, that was, I'm positive, and I'm just wanting to give you ideas.
Yeah.
Great. I did just a time check here. We have about 4 more minutes. And Christoph, I sent you my email address if you wanted to have thoughts after this call too, that you can send to me and I could forward to Rob and Maureen and Chris.
Okay.
So
Great.
I just want to see if there's any others that had any questions.
Go ahead.
You can. I just was checking if anyone else had any questions while they were on. I guess not. So we can continue, Christoph. I just want to see.
The couple of subjects I discussed was when you're using pictures, to be able to have that handling the pictures will not require computing URLs. I mean, there should be some way that a picture that is used in an application that was loaded into the application, that if you want to show it, it's automatic. I mean, there's no JavaScript to say localhost, whatever, / and so on. This is just a headache.
Right.
You understand what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And back to the... Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, there's a few places in the product where we probably should just automatically show thumbnail images. If you upload an image to an attachment widget, I think it's an obvious place to show a thumbnail of that image once it's attached.
Yeah, for example, that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other point I felt very excited about was rich text. I understand it's a complex issue if we want to do back and forth, but if there would already be a possibility to see a rich text field and maybe open up an attachment that's in it without being able to change it, that would be already a great thing. Just seeing it, a viewer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, rich text coming from Domino. So, and then
exactly.
we're gonna try for the next release. I think surfacing rich text from Domino seems quite feasible. That we will do that. The other thing that we're when it comes to rich text is that we're going to work on a rich text widget of our own, so that end users can enter rich text in both applications as well.
May I make a suggestion? When I go to your forum, I mean, you already got that.
When you go to our forum,
and you enter a question, a request, whatever, there's a good rich text thing here that works fine.
Oh.
Yeah, except that that's not, the forum isn't using Volt, but
okay.
we understand the request.
And we are also looking, over time, sharing more components across the portfolio, so you can have a common experience. So, that doesn't mean it's a function then of time versus do we want to the integration. So there may be a two-step there, but we do want to look ultimately, like, you know, when we can get all these things done, we want to look to have an HCL look to our product that's nice and pretty and consistent. So that's where sharing a control could be really helpful, but it might be a little hard at the moment.
Yeah,
it's okay. You know, you need time. I'm aware of that. So we're just here to push you a little bit, I guess.
Oh, good. These are all great suggestions. And if anybody has, one of the best ways to actually get something into the product is definitely to raise it at any session like this, but also go to the AHA feature request site and, you know, register your idea there. The AHA portals, what's it called? The ideas portal. And or vote on something that's there already, right? If we see that something has a lot of votes, we'll bump it up the list in priority. So that's the best way to get your voice heard.
Do you have that link handy for the AHA? That you can put in the chat. Meanwhile, we are at time. We're about a minute over time, so we should do some concluding words here. And but if you can have that, if not, we can send the link after the fact too, because we have the contact information.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we do want you to be able to attend Richard's closing remarks. So thank you very much for attending today. Really, really fun. And I hope you're enjoying Volt. And please keep the questions coming. There's the forum. Keep the conversation going. Thank you very much.